lot going on, but that's mostly because we have cleared out our barn. We don't have goats anymore, and so we just have dumped loads of hay and spent hay in the bottom. This technically isn't just perennials because I couldn't do that. So right now we have 2 rows of raspberries, which are right here and here. One was just some red ones that my mother-in-law had when we moved over, and then we got a bunch from a friend of hers that are gold raspberries, so pretty excited about that. Over here we have 3 big rhubarb plants. They are slightly getting eaten, and we're gonna harvest some pretty shortly. We actually have already harvested some, but rhubarb are wonderful early fruit, dry, sour. And of course I couldn't help myself. There's a soaker hose going in between, so I had to throw in there's some weeds in there, but there's some little chamomiles that are doing pretty good. This one's gonna throw up some flowers pretty soon. Same over here, there's a little bit of chamomile. And then under here, this is a frost cloth. We call it rime, I'm not sure. But it's just a frost cloth that helps keep stuff warm. So under here, I actually weeded this part, and then I decided, you know what? We're gonna use this. So I put in corn. The front part is a pink early popcorn, and then the back is like a sweet corn. And I am so thrilled. It's starting to come up. Just little itty bitty ones so far. But yeah, so we got the soaker hose going. I'll probably spray the outside until I can get this mulched like in the rows. And then of course here, it was cardboard between, and so I knew I was going to mulch it with hay, so I threw down a small layer of composted manure, and I threw in extra potatoes that we had. So those were all free, and then I threw hay on top. So just, an extra way to use the space we have here. We did have strawberries in here originally last year, and they just didn't do well. I think maybe not enough sun. So I decided to just use it as an overflow bed. So I wanted to try some short peas, and that's what these are. This side is shelling peas that we got from a friend. Her daughter sells seed every year. So these are a shelling pea, and then on the other side is snap peas. And they are already starting to flower. I'm super excited. My kids cannot wait for these to grow into peas. Yay! And then it was just overflow stuff, so extra chamomile that we had, just a German chamomile. Last year we had cilantro here, so it reseeded. These are all volunteer, and we love cilantro, so it's kind of nice having a second round. This area gets a little shadier, so the other, we already had a first wave in the sunnier areas of the garden, and so this is fun. These were onions that we didn't dig up last year, and I just actually was clearing, I think it was the tomato bed, and so I didn't have the heart to just toss it. So I replanted them over here, and now they're gonna go to seed, and we can save some of those seeds. And I've been using these green onions just on dishes. I replanted some, there's some grasshoppers on there. I replanted some sunflowers, and then those are poppies. So poppies are pretty heavy feeders. Whoops, stepped on some rebar. They're just starting to grow. I haven't had success with poppies really. They're pretty heavy feeders, and this is a pretty good bed. It has a lot of composted manure. And then of course cilantro going to seed, and the peas back here. I think that might be a sunflower that we planted from seed. And then these ones came up volunteer in another part of the garden, and of course our nemesis, the grasshoppers. So this is the front of our garden. Here's our gate. There's our pup. I put in this bed this year. I just put cardboard down. It's kind of a desolate area, and we're gonna put a cattle panel just right here, so it'll be a little archway, and it doesn't get as much sun up here, but it's kind of just another overflow spot. It gets a decent amount of sun. Our whole area gets a lot of sun, so it's nice having shade trees in our garden. But I got a mint plant from a friend of mine. It's a sweet mint. And I know it can spread, so I just figured this was a really good spot. I love mint. We drink so much mint tea that I thought this would be a good spot for it. And so we also have lemon balm back here. This one's a little one, and then there's 2 more. Those ones my mother-in-law winter sowed. She actually winter sowed most of these a lot of our plants, I should say. The calendula, more poppies, and then this is a variety of chamomile. The flowers are all yellow instead of white and yellow, and I can't recall what its name is, but I'll have to look it up. It's from Baker Creek Seeds. These are a colorful yarrow. My mother-in-law, she ordered those from Baker Creek, and so she had extras, and so I threw them in here. And then we have more calendula. I love calendula in tea, and also for salves because it's really good for your skin. Here's a little chive plant I got from a friend of mine. And then there's another variety of poppy. I think there are 2 different varieties. So it's pretty fun, all the things coming up. And then on this side, it's kind of another overflow area. We had some of these violets coming up volunteer, and then I actually got a huge box of them from a local person off Facebook for like $5. So I was excited about that. And this one's a little struggling. These are the ones we grew, or that we're just growing at our house. Aren't they so beautiful? And then they're just the different varieties. Here we have, what was this one? This is valerian. So when I talked to my mother-in-law, you can actually dry the leaves and use the leaves. So I think I might cut some of those back and just stick them in a dehydrator or just stick them on a rack to dry. Those are good. This is, it's a wild plant. I can't recall what it is, but we just left it in because we don't have a lot of it at our place. I just potted up that little plant. It's actually that tree back there. It's like a red, I don't know, crab apple or something like that. There's 2 little starts on the ground. That one doesn't look as happy. This one looks okay. I just potted them up today, so we'll just see how they do. Watered them in. I actually put like that manure hay stuff at the bottom, and then some compost and a little dirt on top. I figured if I could try and baby them a little bit, maybe they'll grow a little bigger this year, and then I can replant them in the fall. Yeah, so we'll see. Our last perennial bed for now. I put in these strawberries this year. I got about 25 or so for like $8 from a local greenhouse, so that was pretty cool. I think they're a June bearing, which is totally great. And then we also had some strawberries that came over when my mother-in-law moved. These ones, I actually don't know what these ones are, but they didn't do as good. These might actually be the ones I got last year that didn't do very well. Anyways, these were some of the ones that survived from that other bed, and so I popped them over here. Under there is a little blackberry that I had coming up in here. We actually haven't even tried it, so I just stuck it in. It's underneath that to help it. Here we have a blueberry plant. I need to trim it back because it's kind of died back. It was only 1 of 4 that survived. These were my hopeful wishing thingy, these little sticks. I was thinking, oh, maybe they're alive, so I'll plop them in this row. They are not. So that was a honeyberry and then 2 little rose plants. So I just can't seem to grow the roses. And then again, we have some more. These ones I think are pansies. Those were just popped up in the garden somewhere, and so I dug them up so we could enjoy them. And then we have more. This one is a pretty sedum. It's really good pollinator. It has like a really dark pink flower, and it's beautiful. Wow, look, I just noticed. You know, the fun things you get to notice when you're just enjoying all the little parts of the garden. This is an echinacea. We have tried growing echinacea the last few years, and I just haven't been successful. And so my mother-in-law actually got this for me, which was super, super thoughtful. Yeah, do something, a little bud growing. Just more of those violets. There's a volunteer sunflower, which we love. We have lots of this, which is lamb's quarter. It's like a wild spinach, I think they call it. And then we have endless amounts of arugula. Endless amounts. I probably should pull these. I might actually pull them and then just dry them to use throughout the year. These are blueberry plants that my mother-in-law, I had her pick them up for me from Costco this year just because they were pretty good price, and I was like, well, we might as well try and get something put in. Yeah, right here we have a currant bush that has been, it's a red currant. They're pretty good. They're a little tart. One of my kids can't eat them. They make her mouth like feel weird, so she doesn't eat them, but everyone else enjoys them. they're okay. They're just kind of, you know, so-so. Some more sunflowers, and then here's a lilac I got from my parents. I should probably trim it up a little bit. I threw in some calendula back here since the soaker hose is going to be here. And then there's a chamomile there, and a chamomile there, and another calendula, and I need to weed. And then this is a spinach that came up by itself. Okay, so I was just talking about the arugula. There's arugula, there's arugula, more. It's all over. And these are actually, most of these came back. They overwintered here, which is kind of surprised me. So they're like a wild arugula, I think my mother-in-law said, with the yellow flower. You can kind of tell. The white ones, I guess those ones aren't wild. So these ones are a wild one, and they are very plentiful here. Back here we have squash. They are looking so-so. We'll see how they do. We just, again, have the frost cloth on to help keep the heat in there. We did different varieties of zucchini and some summer squash. I see a flower back there. I don't know if you can pick that up. Here we got some ants going on, but here is a volunteer sunflower. We didn't plant it. It's just growing. That's kind of one of the nice things about gardening, is you just get to enjoy the things that just come up. And then if stuff doesn't do well, other stuff came up. So we'll probably trim back a lot of these and give them to the rabbits, or give them to anybody who wants them, friends, family, or give it to the chickens. So underneath, we're gonna sneak a peek, is more arugula. Just kidding. We have, oh, that's a calendula I threw in. And then we got cucumbers. So they are looking excellent in there. My mother-in-law threw in some seed, and I actually have a friend that said some more seed because we didn't have quite enough. This is all volunteer, or maybe we sowed it in the fall last year. This is all lettuce. Like, look at how tall this is. It's so tall. It's probably like nearly 3 feet tall. And then there is some, this came up from seed from last year, is some cilantro. If you haven't had garden cilantro, you're missing out. It's so good. Here's some radishes we threw in this year. They all bolted, but I will tell you one thing. The hummingbirds, they love it. They come sometimes actually about this time of day. I've seen the hummingbirds coming and drinking from the radish flowers, so that's cool. We have some more of that yellow chamomile. It's supposed to be really good for like warmer climates, so we'll see. I'm hoping maybe I can get it to spread like in our fields and such. And then our next row, so we kind of just have like our paths. These are all mostly edibles. There's some purslane going on, and then I'm actually not sure what that is, but there's just like lettuce and spinach and cilantro, of course. So our next row is our tomatoes. As you can see, we already have some baby tomatoes, and then some more cucumbers. So the front part has this little cucumber trellis, and then the middle has, we have this taller cattle panel with tomatoes all down this side, and then tomatoes at the back. So we're pretty excited. We are gonna have to tie them up a little bit towards it. So as we get farther in the season, we'll be removing this frost cloth, but it helps it give it a boost, and just in case we have a last frost, a really late frost. And then we just threw in, you know, extra things. We have that other chamomile, and then we have a calendula. At the back we have some cosmos. They're like a pink flower, they get kind of tall, and then a marshmallow. It looks a little sad, but yeah, there's our tomato row. Here's more arugula. We're gonna, Titus learn how to weed, so he did this, and then I think I'm gonna have him come back and do it a little shorter, but he did really good for his first time. This is that pretty crabapple tree. I actually hated it when we first moved because I thought it was crazy that they had trees in our garden, but we get so much sun because it's just so wide open here that it's nice to have our variety of you know, different levels of shade. So this actually has a gorgeous dark pink flower in the earlier in the spring, and this year was even earlier than previous years. And then the leaves are just this gorgeous color. Like, look at this, so pretty. And then it gets these little berries. None of the birds really eat them. But anyway, so they were growing up in here, those little starts, and I dug them up. So next row is peppers. You're not going to be able to see them very well because I have them covered in frost cloth and they look a little bit yellow to me. But we have a variety of hot peppers, some brown jalapeno plants, and then some serranos, which didn't look great, but and then this other one called apocalypto. I think it's supposed to be incredibly spicy. And then some King of the North bell peppers, and those are supposed to do really well in our zone. We are zone 5. They say 6, but other research we've done, it seems like we're closer to zone 5. So we just go with zone 5, and then any trees that we purchase, we try and get zone 3 or 4 just to be on the safe side. Of this row of our peppers, we actually have some bush beans, which I'm not going to untuck them because they look so happy. And then we also have some, these are all, yes, I believe, yeah, these are all leeks. So we have a bunch of leeks, and then of course other volunteer stuff. I believe these are ground cherry. I think it's starting to rain a little. And then, you know, more arugula and more ground cherry and purslane. Purslane is a weed, but it's incredibly high in vitamin E, I believe it is. I might have to correct myself later. And then dill, some volunteer dill. So next row is potatoes. There's over 100 potato plants here, and then another probably like 40 over there, and then probably another 100 or more in a overflow garden. So we have a whole bunch of potatoes, different varieties. We marked them on my mother-in-law's garden sheet. And then there's some volunteer dill back there, if you can see it. We also have some chives that my mother-in-law got from the store, and they were like in this free box that she got. Those are doing pretty well. I'm probably going to trim them back soon and probably dry them and then see if they kind of retake off. I got this time from a friend of mine, and then these are volunteer. We actually aren't certain if they are chard or beets. I'm leaning towards chard. Like, that looks a little more like chard to me. And then calendula, which we love. And honestly, if you harvest your calendula, like, it will start this small, and hopefully later in the season I'll be able to show, but it will be a bush, like massive bush. It's pretty exciting. This was a carrot that I didn't dig up. I figured I might leave it and see if we can harvest seed from it. And then we did have dill in this row. Oh, that's another carrot. Looks like something's, yeah, another carrot. Just see if we can maybe harvest seed. There's a dill plant, and like how I propped up my peppers. So next we have a bunch of garlic. Like, look at this. This is amazing. Like, look how thick that is. It's like thicker than my thumb. We're probably gonna come through and weed and maybe mulch it a little bit, but I'm excited to look for the scapes pretty soon. Ooh, I see one starting. Do you see that? Do you guys have any good recipes for scapes? Volunteer sunflowers. We have lots this year, which just thrills me. I'm so excited. And then just the front is just kind of extra stuff. So we have some beets, which are gorgeous. Like, look, that does kind of look like the chard that I was talking about, huh? So we have beets. I'm hoping to grow a lot of beets, either that or get a big box of them. My husband loves a pickled beet that my sister-in-law made, so we're gonna try for it. And then some overflow squash. We had lots of squash. And then, you know, guess what this is? Arugula all over. And borage. I'm not sure if any one of you guys are familiar with borage. This one's looking a little bit eaten. There's more. It's an edible. Last year we used the flowers in salads, and they're a good pollinator. I think I'm gonna try really hard to try and dehydrate greens just to have in soups. You can, you know, grow your own food. It's cool to be able to preserve it throughout the seasons, and so if I can dehydrate greens and throw them in either smoothies or blend them up and put them in like seasoning salt, or, you know, just on top of potatoes or anything like that, throw them in soups or casseroles. It's just another way to get nutrients that we've grown ourselves into our meals, which is really exciting. Guess what else we have? More arugula. It is a very good pollinator. It gets lots of yellow flowers, but and it kind of, you know, chokes out the weeds. Tilly, there's our pup. She's pestering our hen. We had a broody hen, so I put her on some eggs in that little coop. Okay, so here we have some different lettuces, some carrots, and celery, and then onions. And then over there is our brassicas. And my father-in-law's coming over. So we have different root vegetables here. We have our onions. They are looking gorgeous. We have this like spent hay, and I think my mother-in-law's idea was to put it along the edge just to help mulch it. And then once these get a little bigger, we will just mulch it with just normal hay straw along the middle. And then up here is our last area. We had yet again a regular, that one came up by itself. And then we had some like volunteer lettuce. That's kind of why they go to seed earlier, is because they come up on their own before we actually put them in. And spinach, I think we put the spinach in. So this is kind of just our overflow, I mean, we kind of had plans for it. So we have peas along the back. These are going to be the tall peas. And they are starting to get flowers, which, let's see, me and Thea found a few earlier. Anyways, these are different varieties in here, and I kind of marked them. There's a little stick to mark. But then we put dill on both sides, and then nasturtium. We tried covering them. This one's kind of broken, but the nasturtium just seemed to need some help to get started. I sowed some radish seeds, which we're going to have to come in here and harvest some of these because some of them are starting to get eaten. But these are like a French radish, and they're gorgeous. So pretty. And then just lettuce that we winter sowed. More lettuce. There's a ton of purslane. I already gave some to the chickens today, so in a couple days I'll probably give them more. We have some kale up here and chamomile, 2 different varieties, you know, again, that's a weed. But there's our calendula, chamomile. And look at this chamomile. Would you look at that? It is June 2nd or 3rd, can't remember. And look, there's already chamomile growing on it. And then, of course, more purslane. This is that one that is like wild spinach, but I can't remember what it's called. And then kale. We have beets over there. This is actually, this one right here, this is a different one. Oh, look how big it is. So this one's big, this one's little. I'm not sure what's going on. This is cosmos. It's orange cosmos, and it's actually edible, so that's pretty cool. Here's some carrots that we winter sowed and we threw them in. More chamomile, because who doesn't love chamomile? And then we have turnips, and those white flowers are a volunteer cilantro that came up and went to seed. And then there's a potato. A lot of volunteer stuff, which just means that the previous year or even in the fall, stuff went to seed and you know, went in the soil, and then it grew from those seeds that fell. So it wasn't intentional, but it somewhat was, because we decided to leave those before the seeds. We didn't harvest the seeds, and we also didn't pull them before they went to seed. So it was a planned, unplanned kind of thing. I kind of like that style. It's really cool just letting stuff grow, especially when in the later season we have a lot of, there's the hummingbird that just flew by. We have tons of grasshoppers, and it's really unfortunate and really hard. So we're trying to just, you know, count our blessings and enjoy what we have while we have it. Trying to grow things that can do okay. Cucumbers, squash, those did pretty good because they're a little bit rougher, like the leaves. And the way we have the cucumbers growing is that they grow up those little trellises, and so they kind of protect, the actual cucumbers are kind of protected from the leaves, and the leaves actually didn't seem too bothered. So we are just enjoying gardening. My mother-in-law does a lot of the work. It's not just me on my own. The kids help a bit, but they mostly just enjoy playing in the garden. Our whole other side, they have tons of toys, and they are only allowed to dig in the garden, the fenced garden. We have a big fenced area, and so, and actually, that's another thing, is this was already here when we moved here. This 6-7 foot tall fencing, it's probably 7, was already put up. It was actually mostly just a few garden beds, mostly grass. So we came in with a tractor last year, and my husband kind of tilled it up, and then we created the rows, and I hand tilled everything in a way. I used a fork, and I, you know, got all the extra sod out, and we put in extra manure or composted manure from behind our barn, and we've just been working really hard, and this year shows that we worked really hard last year, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, so this is our 2023 beginning of June garden tour. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please subscribe. It's really fun growing our channel. It's pretty small right now, pretty tiny, but we really like just capturing, you know, the day-to-day adventures, and this is kind of more just a home adventure. This is more my speed. I'm home with the little three most of the time, and we have been making an effort. I actually ended up selling our goats this year so that we could do a lot more family adventures throughout the summer, so we're pretty excited about those and looking forward to them. Yeah, see you next time.